Et, Watché, Charlie Angus, les Génocales. Bonjour à tous, je suis très fier d'être ici ce matin avec ma collègue chum, le chef d'NPD, Jagmeet Singh. C'est clair partout dans le Nord-Ontario, il y a beaucoup de frustration concernant la crise de la manque de logement, la nécessité pour le gouvernement fédéral de mettre en place un plan crédible de répondre à la crise de santé médicale. Et aussi, nous sommes ici de parler avec les gens partout dans la région pour parler avec leur vision pour l'avenir de la Nord-Ontario. Nous sommes ici pour parler avec les communautés CRI, les autochtones, de parler concernant la crise de manque de soutien pour les enfants en risque et aussi pour visiter l'industrie, les mines on Kirkland Lake. Good morning. I'm really super proud to be here with the leader of the NDP, Jagmeet Singh. We know that there's so much frustration right now in Northern Ontario. The issue of the housing crisis, the affordability crisis, but also the need to engage with people in our region to hear their points of view. So we're going to have a very busy few days. We're meeting with people on issues of housing, on issues of affordability. We will be meeting with leaders from the Northern Treaty 9 from across our region. We have been meeting on child welfare and Jordan's Principle for First Nation families. And we are going to be heading to Kirkland Lake to go underground in one of the gold mines because it's really important that we have leaders of this country understand our industry, understand critical minerals and the role that mining plays. So I'm really proud to have Jagmeet here. I'm going to turn it over to you. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much. Charlie, we're super lucky to have you as the local member of parliament. As you all know, Charlie's been fighting for the North, and we're really honored that you're on a team and such a strong voice for the people up here. Like Charlie said, we want to hear from you. We're here to spend time in the North, and that means actually hearing from people. We're not coming in and out. We're spending time meeting with community members, meeting with leadership, meeting with folks. Tell us about the real concerns that they have here, because we're serious about solutions. It's not slogans for us. It's about really sitting down and hearing from you and working out some solutions. And what I know from already speaking with folks here in the North, I know that it's incredibly difficult. Cost of living hurts everybody across the country, but it's hitting people even harder in the North, where you've already faced a lot of pressures. The cost of groceries have always been higher in the North. And now with the cost of groceries skyrocketing, it's even worse. We know that housing is a big concern everywhere in the country, but with some of the challenges getting materials up to the North, it's been even tougher, and it's now harder than ever before. We know that food bank usage is up in the North. We know that construction for homes is down. We're not seeing enough homes being built. And we know that people are really feeling that squeeze. I know that people are telling me in the North that they're working harder than ever and falling further behind. That is wrong. But I want you to know it is not your fault. It is because the rules have been written that while you are struggling right now, while you're having a hard time buying groceries, you go into a grocery store, you're spending more than ever and walking out with less than ever. That is not by chance. That is because the rules have been written by liberals and conservatives so that rich CEOs can rip you off, make record profits, which they're making, and you can't buy enough food for your family. That is because the rules have been written that way. When it comes to housing, the North has always felt neglected, ignored, like it doesn't matter. And now we've got a housing crisis, all that negligence means people are really feeling that. You can't find a place that's affordable. If you've got a place you live in constant fear, if you lose it, you'll have nowhere to go. And we know that Justin Trudeau has been in power for 9 years, has ignored the North, hasn't solved these problems. And I want to be very clear. He has had the opportunity to take on corporate greed with corporate grocery stores, failed to do so. He had the opportunity to build homes that are affordable for people, failed to do so. He has failed. But let's also be clear. Pierre Poilievre is going to make things even worse. If you think corporations are ripping you off now, he's going to let them rip you off even more. He's going to pour fuel on the fire of corporate greed and let those rich CEOs, his buddies, rip you off even more. I can think of no better example than the fact that right now, as we speak, the Conservative Party of Canada, their campaign director is a lobbyist for the largest corporate grocery store in Canada. So you think he's ever going to take on the corporate greed and these large corporations that are ripping you off? No, he'll never. In fact, He wants even less rules, less regulations, less power for consumers, less protection for consumers, and more power for his buddies to rip you off. That's going to make things worse. On top of what we all know conservatives do, he's going to cut and gut the services you need. He's going to cut pensions. We know that that's not a surprise. Conservatives did that when Harper was in power. He's been very brazen about it, very proud to say, I'm going to cut your pensions. I'm going to cut EI. He's going to cut investments in healthcare. He's going to cut the already meager investments in affordable homes. And he's not even willing to meet with communities up here. He's not meeting with local communities. He's not meeting with Indigenous communities. He's not meeting with local leaders to hear from them because he doesn't actually care. He doesn't care about you or your families, but we do. We're here to fight. We're here to change the rules. The Liberals and Conservatives wrote the rules to benefit the rich. Let's write the rules. Let's change those rules to benefit everyday people. Let's take on corporate greed. One of the things that we put forward, a plan we put forward is let's force the corporate grocery stores to lower the price of essential items. That would immediately lower the cost for you and your family. Lower the cost on essential items that people need, everyday items like bread, like milk, like butter, the essentials that you need. France has done it, other countries have done it, we can do it here. We put forward this plan, and the Liberals, Justin Trudeau, and the Conservatives, Pierre Poilievre, voted against it because they don't want you and your families to get relief now. That's the difference between us and them. We're willing to take on that corporate greed. When it comes to housing, we got to build homes that people can actually afford. No one needs more luxury condos or expensive homes. We need homes that are actually affordable for people. That's our focus. And we're going to do that. We're going to make those investments. I want you to know you can count on us to fight for you. We're here to spend some time in the North, and we're here to change the rules so they start working for you and your families. I'll do that again in French, and then I look forward to your questions. Donc, je suis tellement honoré d'être ici avec une voix vraiment forte dans le Nord et mon collègue Charlie Angus. C'est important de noter le fait que Charlie a souligné les enjeux. Et on sait qu'il y a des enjeux à travers le pays. Le fait que le coût de la vie augmente. Mais c'est plus que jamais difficile dans le Nord aussi, parce que c'était difficile dans le passé et maintenant, avec toutes les augmentations, ça frappe fort dans le Nord. En particulier avec le coût des épiceries et le coût de logement. Donc, je veux dire, premièrement, ce n'est pas votre faute. Le fait que vous sentez le fait que c'est plus difficile que jamais de rejoindre les deux bouts. Ce n'est pas votre faute parce que les règles écrites par les libéraux et les conservateurs ont favorisé les plus riches, les autres riches, et ils ont désavantagé les gens. Ça, c'est un problème qu'on veut régler. Avec les coûts d'épicerie, on sait que ces grandes entreprises, l'épicerie font des profits massifs en même temps que les gens ne peuvent pas aborder les épiceries nécessaires pour leur famille. On veut changer ça. On veut changer les règles pour avantager monsieur, madame, tout le monde au lieu des milliardaires, au lieu des grandes entreprises. Et on peut faire ça. Justin Trudeau a eu 9 ans et son bilan est un échec. Il a ignoré les problèmes. La seule chose qu'il a fait sont les choses qu'on a forcé les libéraux de faire. On a forcé Justin Trudeau de faire. Et avec Pierre Poilievre, si on pense que la situation est mauvaise maintenant, il va être pire encore avec Pierre Poilievre parce qu'il va jeter l'huile sur le feu de l'exploitation des grandes entreprises. Il va encore donner plus de pouvoir aux grandes entreprises de vous exploiter. Ça, c'est quelque chose qu'on ne peut pas permettre. Donc, on va arrêter cette averie, cette cupidité, cette exploitation en changeant les règles. On va changer les règles pour protéger les gens, pour protéger les consommateurs, pour favoriser les gens. Ça, c'est ce qu'on veut faire, c'est ce qu'on doit faire et c'est exactement notre engagement à vous. Merci, je suis tellement honoré encore d'être dans le Nord. On va rencontrer les gens, les chefs, le leadership dans le Nord, les communautés, et puis on va écouter les gens. Merci encore et je suis prêt pour vos questions. Thanks again, I'm ready for your questions.
Okay, we're going to start with questions in the room. So I'll start with Radio Canada, or we'll go someone else first.
Thank you very much. I'm Sergio with CTV Northern Ontario. This question would be for both of you, I suppose. I'm wondering if you can comment on what appears to be a diminishing legacy of NDP in this area. In particular, I'm sure you know that the Timmins provincially has been NDP for the longest time until the Conservatives took power here. I'm wondering what you think about the federal aspect of it. Pierre Poilievre has been here multiple times. This is, I believe, your first time here since 2018. What do you think that says about the legacy of the NDP in this area?
Well, I know people have seen the impact of having a conservative, and they know that Doug Ford has done what conservatives always do, cut and gut the services that people need. I think it's great evidence for exactly what conservatives are about. Instead of building homes, what did Doug Ford propose? He wanted to sell off public land to his rich developer buddies. So you know what you get with conservatives. Corruption, you get people that are more interested in helping out their rich buddies, and they show it with their actions. This is exactly what conservatives do. They've cut education, they've cut healthcare. Healthcare has been worse ever here in the province because of conservative. So you know that Pierre Poilievre is going to do exactly the same thing. He's going to cut healthcare, he's going to cut pensions, he's going to cut EI. It's going to hurt. Conservatives hurt people, and who they help out? Their rich buddies. The rich are doing really well. Corporate Canada is doing incredibly well, but everyday families are hurting. Justin Trudeau has been a failure, and conservatives in Ontario have been a failure. People have seen that. And I put to you that Pierre Poilievre will be no different. He's going to cut the things you need. He's not going to take on the problems, the corporate greed that is hurting you and your families. He's not going to stop them. Those are his buddies. Those are who he worked for. You Democrats have been committed to fighting for people, and we've gotten stuff done. In this past couple of years, we've been able to bring in dental care. We've been able to bring in farming care. We're going to make a difference in people's lives. Those two concrete things that are already improving people's lives, and we're going to keep on fighting for more. Give Charlie a chance as well.
Yeah, it's been amazing. I think Jagmeet will probably have spent more time in Northern Ontario on this one trip than Pierre Poilievre spent in a glass 4. Because who does Pierre Poilievre come and speak to? His little rage mob. He hasn't bothered ever to meet with any First Nation communities in our region. Imagine that. He hasn't gone underground in the mines. He hasn't met with municipal leaders because he doesn't care. He doesn't want to hear the facts. So he shows up, stands outside, announces a billboard attacking me personally, then gets on the plane and buggers off and goes someplace else. So come on back, Pierre, anytime. We've won this riding 7 times in a row. Wait for number 8. It's because we're committed here. We've got roots here. Jagmeet is meeting people and we're building the team because we don't take this area for granted, not like Pierre Poilievre.
Just to follow up,
Sure.
if I can, how do I put this? Well, you've been able to get a lot done with your deal with the Liberals in terms of things like pharmacare, dental care, and that kind of thing. If this area turns out to turn conservative federally, how much influence do you think the NDP would be able to have with the with the Conservatives? If we vote you in NDP, what would you be able to get done?
Well, I want to point out just the difference. You know, what do we spend our time doing? When New Democrats are given a chance at power, we use it for people, and we've shown that. We found a way to make sure we can get people, seniors, their dental care. I think about the people that I've met and the difference it's made in their lives. I think about Sue, whose name is Susan, but she insists I call her Sue. And I met her in Ottawa. And I met her at a dentist office. And she had just described to the dentist and the denturist that she had lost her teeth because of cancer. She's a cancer survivor, but she'd lost her teeth. And she had a picture of her smile. She said to the dentist and the denturist, I just want my smile back. And the dentist and the denturist looked her in her eyes and said, we're going to get you that smile back. And she broke down in tears of joy, saying, I didn't know if this card would actually work, but now hearing that, I'm so excited to get my smile back. That's who we've helped. And Pierre Poilievre, what's his response to Sue? He wants to take that dignity away from her. He's already said there would be no dental care under Pierre Poilievre. He wants to attack seniors who are, for the first time in their life, some of them being able to look after their teeth. He wants to attack Sue, a cancer survivor who's going to get her smile back. He doesn't want her to get her smile back. That's who Pierre Poilievre is. That's the type of person he is. And who we are is we use our power for people. Anytime we have an opportunity, we're going to fight for people. So Tommy Douglas did, bringing in universal health care. That's what New Democrats do. We use our power for people. And we're going to fight like hell to make sure we defend what we fought for and we get more for people. And that means taking on the corporate greed. We know that's a major concern right now. Big corporations are ripping off people. How do we expect everyday folks to stand up to these powerful corporations? Well, that's what government should be for. Justin Trudeau's failed to do it. Pierre Poilievre is going to put fuel on that fire. We're going to fight back and say, no, let's change the rules to lift up people, to give them more protection, to have severe penalties for rich corporations that dare to rip off Canadians. We're going to put in place severe penalties. We're going to make sure we bring down the price of groceries, not hoping that there'll be some trickle down. Directly go after the corporate groceries that are jacking up the price of your groceries, that are ripping you off and making record profits. we're going directly at them and saying, no, the corporate greed ends here. We're going to slice the price of groceries by going after the greedy CEOs and bringing down your grocery prices. That's what we're about.
Let's go to the next question.
Hey. Bob McIntyre from Vista Radio. This question is actually for my stations in Alberta, and they want your reaction to Danielle Williams not adopting the dental care plan.
Well, Danielle Smith in Alberta.
Danielle Smith, sorry.
Yeah, Danielle Smith in Alberta is just like Pierre Poilievre. Both of them think it makes sense to go and attack a senior that's getting their teeth fixed for the first time in their life. The first question I ask is, why? Why does Danielle Smith think that Sue, a cancer survivor senior living on a pension, doesn't deserve to get her teeth looked after? Why? Why, Danielle Smith? Why don't you think kids whose parents can't afford to take them to the dentist, why those kids don't deserve to go? Why? Why are you going to attack people that just want the same dignity that you have, to be able to have a smile, to be able to have healthy teeth, to be able to eat their food? Why would you want to attack them? Why do conservatives want to attack vulnerable people? Why is it that what they do? Why do they always punch down? I want to say we're not going to let Danielle Smith stop this dental care program. But you know what we're going to do also? Nayib Nenshi and the Alberta NDP are going to stop Danielle Smith and make sure we bring in a new Democrat government that doesn't attack seniors and kids, and instead protects them and defends them and fights for them.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Okay. Okay.
Thanks.
Any other questions? Yeah. No. Okay. We're gonna go to Zoom, Nina.
Nous allons maintenant prendre les questions via Zoom. Je rappelle tout le monde d'utiliser la fonction lever la main pour poser votre question et question de suivi. Just a reminder to use the raise hand function. Nous allons commencer avec Mélanie Marquis avec la presse. C'est à vous.
Merci, Nina. Bonjour, M. Singh. Bonjour, M. Angus. J'aimerais vous entendre sur le désistement de Joe Biden et la possible candidature de Kamala Harris. Qu'est-ce que ça veut dire? Qu'est-ce que ça change pour le Canada, selon vous?
Premièrement, je veux souligner que le président Biden était parmi les présidents les plus en faveur des classes ouvrières dans une génération. Ces politiques ont favorisé les travailleurs. Et c'est quelque chose de vraiment positif, quelque chose qu'on appuie et quelque chose qu'on essaie de faire aussi. Mais c'est important de noter, il était, je pense, un des premiers présidents qui a assisté dans un manifeste pour les travailleurs. C'est la première fois qu'on a vu des politiques, des lois qui sont là pour dire qu'on doit avoir des liens forts, des conditions fortes pour des investissements liés avec des bons emplois et des emplois syndicaux. Ça, c'est quelque chose d'important. On essaie de faire la même chose avec les crédits d'impôt pour la première fois au niveau fédéral au Canada, qui sont aussi liés avec des bons emplois, des bons salaires et des emplois syndicaux. C'est quelque chose que Charlie Angus a travaillé là-dessus et on est tellement fiers de ça. Aussi, le fait que le président Biden a noté que c'est l'exploitation des grandes entreprises qui est le grand problème. Il a noté ça, elle a dit ça clairement. Et c'est intéressant parce que Justin Trudeau n'a pas dit ça. Il n'a pas identifié le problème comme c'est l'exploitation des secondes entreprises. Ça, c'est le problème. Il n'a pas dit ça. Et évidemment, Pierre Poilievre va jamais dire ça. Donc, ça, c'est quelque chose d'intéressant parce qu'on est tout à fait d'accord. Finalement, il a dit qu'il veut réduire les prix pour les médicaments au diabète. On a accompli ça avec la science médicaments où on va avoir des médicaments pour les diabètes gratuits, aussi les contraceptifs gratuits. Donc, ça, c'est quelque chose qui nous rassemble, cette idée de défendre les gens. Finalement, il a pris sa décision et je pense qu'il a pris la décision pour ce qui est dans le meilleur intérêt du pays. Donc, je reconnais comment c'était une décision difficile. Et puis, si je peux parler un peu de Kamala Harris, je suis fièrement un père de deux filles. Et qu'est-ce que ça veut dire d'avoir une présidente Kamala Harris? Pour mes filles, le fait qu'une femme racisée, une femme noire, peut devenir le président d'un des pays les plus puissants à travers le monde, c'est énorme, c'est incroyable. Ça veut dire toutes les femmes, toutes les filles qu'ils peuvent faire n'importe quoi dans leur vie. L'inspiration que ça va présenter, c'est incroyable. Aussi, Kamala Harris a défendu les gens. Elle s'est battue contre les grandes banques. Elle a vraiment montré la priorité des gens. Et la priorité, c'est les gens, pas les milliardaires. Donc, ça, c'est quelque chose d'important. Et qu'est-ce qu'on va faire comme chef et comme futur premier ministre? On va toujours défendre l'intérêt du Canada. Donc, dans les discussions avec les États-Unis, on va toujours défendre les travailleurs, les intérêts du Canada. Je pense que ça va être plus facile avec une présidente comme la Harris, mais n'importe qui, c'est le président, on va toujours défendre l'intérêt de notre pays et des gens de notre pays.
Je rebondis sur ce que vous venez de mentionner. Vous pensez que ce serait plus facile de négocier avec une administration démocrate? Est-ce que vous pensez qu'un gouvernement Poilievre pourrait parvenir à travailler avec une potentielle administration Kamala Harris? Merci.
Merci. Je pense que le problème avec Pierre Poilievre, c'est le fait qu'il ne va pas défendre les intérêts de classe ouvrière. Il ne va pas défendre les intérêts des Canadiens. Son bilan est clair. Il a voté contre un salaire minimum au niveau fédéral. La seule raison pour ça, c'est de défendre les grandes entreprises contre les travailleurs. Donc, c'est clair sa priorité. Il a toujours dit, il a toujours s'est battu contre les syndicaux. Il s'est battu contre les travailleurs. Il va couper les investissements dans la science emploi, dans les pensions. Il veut couper tous les services dont les gens ont besoin. Donc, pour les gens, il y a la mauvaise décision.
We will now go to David Baxter with the CBC. Please go ahead.
Hey, good morning, Mr. Singh and Mr. Angus. Thanks for taking the questions. Yeah, I guess let's get you to repeat what you just said in French there. What are your thoughts on Joe Biden dropping out of the presidential race and the likelihood of Kamala Harris becoming the new Democratic nominee?
Thanks so much for the question. Yeah, first off, I want to just underline that President Biden has been, as many have said, probably one of the most pro-worker presidents in a generation. One of the first to show up at a picket line to support working people, but also looking at his policies, really committed to making sure any investments at the federal level are tied to good jobs. He's been very clear to say union jobs and good wages, something that we also fought for. In the first of its kind in Canada, you've got tax credits that Charlie Angus and our team were a big part of fighting for, tax credits that are directly tied to good wages, prevailing wages, tied to good jobs and apprenticeships. That's something the New Democrats believe. We don't believe in giving away blank checks to big corporations like conservatives, like Harper did, for those corporations to take that money, shut down shop, and leave the country. We think that's absolutely wrong. We need ironclad guarantees that any money we invest goes to workers, and that's something that President Biden did. I think it's really remarkable. We also share values around taking on corporate greed. He's one of the only presidents I've ever heard of that's really focused on corporate greed being a big problem, that corporations are ripping off people. We agree with that. We haven't seen Justin Trudeau say that ever, and we know with guaranteed certainty that Pierre Poilievre will never take on corporate greed. Those are his buddies. Those are the folks he wants to defend. So we share that. We believe in that. And he's committed to lowering the price of insulin. We've actually forced the government to make diabetes medication free across this country, as well as devices and free birth control. So we're committed to making life better for people. And I want to salute President Biden for his great work. And he made a decision that was in the best interest in his belief for the country. And I acknowledge that's a tough decision to make. And the idea of a Kamala Harris presidency is incredible. I'm a really proud dad of 2 daughters. Actually, Charlie's also a proud dad of daughters. And the idea of having the first ever female president of the United States, for my kids, my daughters to grow up seeing or to know that there was a racialized Black woman who was the president of one of the most powerful countries in the world. I can't even begin to imagine what that would be like in terms of inspiration. It would make my daughters feel like they could do anything to see that. On top of that, we know that Vice President Kamala Harris is someone that has fought against the big banks. taken the side of working people, and has showed a real commitment to values that we share, values of defending everyday folks. As a former Attorney General, she's really committed to that work. And so it's an exciting opportunity. And I think the people of the United States make the decision that's in their best interest. Someone that's going to fight for working people.
No, perfect. Thanks for that. And I just want to, bring the focus for the next question back to home here and follow up a bit on what my colleague from CTV there asked you about Northern Ontario. Just, looking at BC, it looks like David Eby is on track for another term there. Of course, Wab Kinew became NDP premier in Manitoba. In Saskatchewan, polls showing that, that the party also looking to see some gains this fall. And in Alberta, Naheed Nenshi saying he wants to examine whether the Alberta NDP stays united with the federal branch of the party. We're seeing a lot of success and momentum building with the NDP in Western Canada provincially, but federally that doesn't seem to be the case. Looking at the polls, of course, in Saskatchewan, the party has 0 seats right now, only 2 in Alberta and a handful in Manitoba and BC. Why do you think that is? Why do you think the provincial NDP is succeeding in areas where the federal branch is struggling?
I'd say we've built a strong brand across the country, formed government in BC, and BC is where the province we have the most number of MPs right now in our caucus. So we've got a lot of BC support, and we've seen great breakthroughs where people have seen the horrible impact of conservatives. In Manitoba, they rejected conservatives. They rejected the conservative, the Stephenson government and the Pallister government before that, who cut and got healthcare. People lived through that and say, you know what? No, we don't want any more of that. We saw that in Saskatchewan, we're seeing the cuts are finally hurting people so much that they're saying, we got to look for an alternative. People know that conservatives cut. People know that in Ontario, they see the impacts of that. They're cutting education, they're cutting healthcare. And what they also do is help out their rich buddies. That's what conservatives always do. They help out their wealthy buddies. People know that about the conservatives. So we got to make sure people know that into the next election. They've got a real choice. That choice is an important choice. Out of touch, Justin Trudeau and the Liberals, who have let you down, who have failed to take on corporate greed, who've had the power to solve problems and haven't done so. And then Pierre Poilievre. People need to know the price of Pierre Poilievre. He is going to cut and gut the things that you need. And it's not hard to believe because conservatives always do it. They've done it provincially, and we know that they did it in the past federally. Pierre Poilievre is going to cut your pension. Seniors are going to hurt. They're already hurting. He's going to make them hurt even more. He wants to cut their EI. He wants to cut people's EI at a time when people are worried about making ends meet. He wants to cut investments in healthcare. He wants to get rid of a federal healthcare minister. He wants to destroy healthcare. I mean, these are things people do not want to see happen. So we're going to make sure people know the price of Pierre Poilievre, know what he wants to do, and know that they've got a real choice. We want to change the rules that these guys wrote that set up rich corporations to rip you off. We want to change the rules to defend you. Better laws to protect you against price gouging. Better laws to protect consumers. And let's directly take on corporate greed. Make sure people can afford their groceries. Build homes that people can actually afford. Take on the corporate landlords that are jacking up rents in major cities across this country and defend people for once. We can do it. We're committed to doing that.
Nous allons maintenant à Christian Noël avec Radio-Canada. C'est à vous.
Bonjour. Je pense que vous êtes sur ce dé.
Vas-y, Christian, on t'entend.
It's his mic, not ours. So.
Concernant ce que vous...
Et Christian, si vous pouvez recommencer.
Donc, j'ai entendu la réponse que vous avez donnée à mes collègues à propos de M. Biden, de Mme Harris. Vous avez mêlé M. Poilievre là-dedans. Je comprends pourquoi vous le faites. Ma question à vous, c'est spécifiquement, qu'est-ce que vous croyez que le fait que M. Biden se retire de la course change pour notre relation avec le Canada et les États-Unis?
Je pense que notre relation va être toujours la même relation. C'est clair que c'est un de nos partenaires économiques les plus importants. C'est clair, c'est évident. On a une économie qui est vraiment liée. Les deux pays sont vraiment liés. Et donc, on doit toujours défendre les intérêts des Canadiens, des travail au Canada. Et ça va être toujours, ça doit être toujours la priorité pour un premier ministre au Canada, de défendre les intérêts du Canada. On doit travailler ensemble avec les États-Unis. et avec une présidence démocratique, ça va être plus facile, c'est clair, c'est évident. Avec le président Biden, on a eu des bonnes discussions et des bonnes conversations et on va continuer de faire ça. Mais pour moi, ce qui est primordial, c'est le fait que mon travail comme Premier ministre, c'est de défendre les intérêts du Canada, de notre pays et des gens qui habitent dans notre pays.
Vous avez félicité les décisions de Joe Biden de quitter à ce moment-ci. Est-ce que, si on fait un parallèle avec ce qui se passe au Canada, est-ce que Justin Trudeau devrait s'inspirer de la décision de Joe Biden devant sa propre impopularité à lui?
Donc, pour président Biden, j'ai dit que je reconnais la raison pour laquelle il a décidé. Il a voulu faire ce qui est dans le meilleur intérêt de son pays. Donc, je reconnais cette décision et je félicite Kamala Harris comme présidente potentielle incroyable, ce que ça veut dire pour inspirer une nouvelle génération des jeunes personnes et des jeunes filles en particulier. Pour Justin Trudeau, comme j'ai dit, son bilan est une faillite. C'est un échec le fait qu'il a ignoré le problème d'augmentation de coûts d'épicerie, le fait qu'il n'a pas agi pour construire du logement. Ici, dans le nord du Canada, le nord de l'Ontario, il a ignoré sa communauté, il n'a pas investi suffisamment pour construire du logement abordable. Donc, son bilan est une faillite. Et c'est clair avec Pierre Poilievre que la décision, c'est quelqu'un qui va couper les services dont vous avez besoin. La décision pour Justin Trudeau de rester ou non, c'est sa décision. Mais pour moi, n'importe qui est l'option libérale, le Parti libéral et Justin Trudeau, n'importe qui est le chef, c'est une partie qui est déconnectée avec les gens et qui n'a pas fait le travail nécessaire. La seule chose qu'ils ont fait, c'est ce qu'on a forcé le gouvernement de faire. Donc, ce n'est pas suffisant pour régler les problèmes dans les vies des gens. Et Pierre Poilievre n'est pas la solution. Il va couper et il va continuer de jeter l'huile sur le feu de l'exploitation des grandes entreprises. Donc, je pense qu'on est la seule option pour quelqu'un qui veut réduire les prix d'épicerie, qui veut réduire le coût pour les logements. On est la seule option qui est là pour défendre les gens.
We'll now go to Mike Lecouteur with CTV. Please go ahead.
Hi, thanks so much for taking our questions. I know you said you welcome, Kamala Harris and her possible run as president. Are there any policies that she has that you know of that worry you compared to Joe Biden right now?
There aren't any policies that I'm aware of. I just know of her work, and one of the things I think is notable is the fact that she took on big banks, and we know that powerful big banks are first hard to take on and have really taken advantage of people in a lot of ways. In Canada, people feel the same way. And the fact that she was prepared to do that and was able to do that is something that's quite notable, that she had the courage to take on the powerful to defend the people. And it's something that I noticed that I think that's the job of a good leader, and that's the job of politics, is to take on the powerful to defend people. But when we see conservatives, it's the opposite. Their job, they seem like to help out the powerful. They help out their corporate buddies. They help out their billionaire friends. That's who they seem to be in it for. We've seen that with Doug Ford here in Ontario, helping out his millionaire, multi-millionaire developer buddies, his billionaire developer buddies. That's what conservatives do. And to me, it's the opposite of politics. Politics should be about defending everyday people, working class people. And conservatives seem to think it's all about taking on working class people and helping out their billionaire buddies. So that's one thing about Vice President Kamala Harris that I really respect, the fact that she took on the big banks.
Earlier, you said you think it might be easier with President Harris. I'm just wondering why you say that when you consider in the United States, even under President Biden, they've been leaning more towards a protectionist type of policy, even versus Canada.
I think that's why the number one priority for a Canadian Prime Minister has to be always fighting for Canadian jobs. That's job number one. Fighting for our jobs, fighting for Canadian interests. That's going to be my number one job as Prime Minister. But we've seen the difference between Republicans and Democrats, or particularly with Trump, who's a bully. He put in aggressive, frankly, nonsensical tariffs on Canadian goods and was not very reasonable, not someone that was able to have discussions with, and really, frankly, acted like a bully. We did not see the same thing with President Biden, someone that was willing to engage in conversation. acknowledge that our economies are so connected that there needed to be some exemptions around some of their focus on manufacturing in America, and acknowledge the governors who raised those concerns and said, you know what, a lot of our products are processed on both sides of the border. So putting on heavy tariffs on Canadian products, Canadian steel, for example, is actually going to hurt manufacturers in America as well. So having that openness and willingness to communicate and discuss the realities is something we noticed with President Biden, and we did not see that with President Trump. But either way, my focus as a future prime minister is to defend the interests of Canadian workers and Canadian jobs, and that's always going to be the job of a prime minister in Canada.
We have one last question from Randy Thomas from 93.1 The Border. Please go ahead.
Hi, Jagmeet. First of all, I just want to ask you, with your tour of Northeastern Ontario, any plans to visit Northwestern Ontario? Is this an extension to travel the entire Northern Ontario?
Well, we look forward to future tours where we'll hit up Northwestern Ontario. This is really focused on Northeastern Ontario. So we're in Timmins, Kirkland Lake. We'll be going to the Cree Fest. We'll be meeting with Indigenous communities. We'll be going to a mine, like Charlie mentioned. So we're really focused on Northeast right now. And I try to do my best to tour across the country, but I want to do meaningful tours. Like, I don't want to just come in and out of a community. I want to meet with local elected officials. I want to meet with local Indigenous communities. We try to meet with businesses, really spend time in the community because it matters to us. It's not just for show. We actually genuinely have roots in this community, and we want to build on those roots. And that's why Charlie and our team set up a really meaningful tour here. Unlike other folks that just come in and out, we're spending time. We're looking forward to hearing from people.
And finally, during this whole media conference and other media conferences I've listened to, a lot of talk has been talked about your opposition, the governing party. Sounds like we are close to an election. So are you ready to, end your partnership with the Liberals and put the words to action at the polls?
Well, either way, we're ready. We're getting close to an election. Election is scheduled for the by law election date is going to be in 2025. So either way, we're close to an election. We want people to know the choice. That choice is really important. We'll be ready to find an election whenever that happens. And we want people to know what their choices are. You got a choice between an out-of-touch Liberal government that has let you down and Justin Trudeau, who has failed you on taking on corporate grocery prices, failed you on building homes that people can afford. He has failed. And we got Pierre Poilievre, who is going to cut and gut the things that you need. People need to know that. He's been very open about it. He's not hiding this. He wants to cut healthcare. He wants to cut pensions. He wants to cut EI. He wants to cut everything you need, investments in affordable homes. He wants to help out his rich buddies. That's what conservatives do. And he's going to make life even worse for you. And on corporate greed, he is going to put fuel on the fire. He wants no rules for these wealthy corporations and their rich CEOs. He wants to let them rip you off. I think that is wrong. We're focused on fighting corporate greed, bringing down the price of your groceries, slicing the price of groceries, but directly going after the guys that are ripping you off. That's what we're about.
Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup. This concludes our press conference. Ceci conclut notre conférence de presse.
Merci. Thanks so much for being here. Thanks to Charlie. Thanks all. Merci.